Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I am Andre Rogers, as Maggie said. This afternoon's presentation is Think Differently Using Large Language Models, or LLMs, throughout a project. Now, I do expect that many of you have used LLMs in some capacity, if not for work, personally. So just so I can get a better sense of the group, type in the comments sort of the most common reason why you use LLMs, whether that's personal, work, emails, idea generation, or that you've actually used LLMs for client deliverables. So this presentation targets really everyone in the project management space, the PMs of all levels, Scrum Master, analysts. Now, even if you've used LLMs before, I do hope this presentation gives you some ideas on how you and your organization can leverage this new tool. Now, I do say new because this technology has been widely available for just about 2 years, but its adaptation has been phenomenal. So we want to ensure that we nor our companies are left behind. This presentation assumes little experience with LLM, so excuse me if some information seems obvious, but I think there's a nugget or two here for everyone. So we're going to learn about Gen AI and LLMs, do some practical applications, and then discuss career implications so that everyone can leave with these four key takeaways. We'll gain a better understanding of Gen AI and LLMs by seeing how they fit within the larger AI universe and reviewing some fundamental considerations. Our case study of a fictional project will have multiple examples of how LLMs can be used throughout a project, so you can leave with some of your own ideas on how you can use LLMs in your projects. We're going to cover such areas such as deciding project methodology, creating a project plan, and even planning a party. We'll see how we can use prompt engineering to form questions in different ways and get different results. And finally, we will discuss the career impacts LLMs will have on the project management field. So let's start at the beginning with what is generative AI or Gen AI? To answer that question, I thought it would be interesting to ask ChatGPT, the technology that I use for this presentation. I gave ChatGPT a question or a prompt, which is what it's called. Notice that as part of my prompt, I gave the context of the answer, that the answer should be tailored to a group of seasoned project managers, many of them who are familiar with technology. And ChatGPT provided me a long answer, way too long for the PowerPoint presentation, so I only took a portion of the answer. This portion said generative AI refers to a subset of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating new content. Unlike traditional AI, which primarily analyzes and classifies data, generative AI is designed to generate data that mimics the original input data. This includes creating text, images, music, and video. Now, I do want to point out here the importance of a human being in the loop. You may have heard of this term before. In this example, I know that I want to put the information onto a slide, so the answer needs to be made appropriate. This will come up again in this presentation. Now, many people use LLM and Gen AI interchangeably, so I wanted to see how the two technologies relate. So I asked the question, what is the difference between generative AI and LLM? Keep your answer short but robust. So two things to notice about this prompt. I did not provide the context again. LLM can hold a context of a conversation and remembers what was said before. The size of this memory differs from LLMs to LLMs. And by the way, there are many LLMs besides ChatGPT. You have Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, Anthropic, so many more. The second thing to notice is that I gave ChatGPT an instruction of how I want the response, short but robust. The answer was not short as robust as I would like, so I only presented a portion here. It said LLM is a subset of Gen AI. An example of LLM is ChatGPT, tooting its own horn. LLMs primarily generates text. Now, in project management, when we talk about Gen AI, we mostly are talking about LLMs. So I thought graphically would be a helpful way of showing the relationship between different AI technologies. Although I didn't do this the old-fashioned way, there are generative AI tools that can be used to generate similar graphics. On the fee-based tools, the more proficient you are, the more creative you can get. But honestly, it was way faster for me to do it the old-fashioned way than to learn a new generative AI tool. Artificial intelligence has been around for decades. Some basic AI technologies are very familiar, including expert systems, decision trees, and game playing. Within AI, there is a technology subset called machine learning. This technology allows computers to learn or become better at tasks that it will perform. The more it performs those tasks, the better it becomes. So, for example, your credit card company incorporates machine learning to analyze data sets and over time learns your spend pattern so that it can detect things that seem unusual. So, if you live in Virginia and never travel, you may get an automatic phone call from your credit card company asking you to confirm a purchase made in Southern California. If you continuously validate some of those purchases, the technology will learn and will stop asking you to validate those purchases of Southern California. Now, medical imaging companies are now using machine learning to detect cancer in mammograms. According to Fierce Health, Google's AI system was able to identify breast cancers with a degree of accuracy comparable to radiologists, reducing false positives by 5.7% in the US and 1.2% in the UK, and reducing missed cases by 9.4% in the US and 2.7% in the UK. This seems like small improvements, but having the correct cancer diagnosis has huge impact. Now, a subset of machine learning is natural language processing. NLP is a technology that allows a computer to understand meaning, including context of natural language. So instead of interacting with computers using computer language like Java, you can use plain English, like Google Translate. Another subset of machine learning is generative AI. Gen AI is the technology that can generate content based on examples that is trained on not only text, but images, videos, and music. So LLM combines the technology of Gen AI and natural language processing. That's what it uses to provide the context rich answers that we see every day. Now that we understand how LLMs relates to Gen AI and machine learning, I want to talk about a few AI fundamentals. First, bias. LLM's outputs can be biased due to the values and bias of engineers who designed it or the bias of the data is trained on. So think about machine learning model that helps screen loan applications. If it's trained on a data set that primarily consists of male applicants with high income, the model might learn to systematically discriminate against applicants from other demographic groups, even if they have similar credit worthiness. Knowledge cutoff. Now, that's a concept that LLMs are trained at a specific point in time and has no knowledge of events or information after that date without an update. So, examples may be a change in building code, permitting requirements, or regulatory compliance. So, if an AI tool attempts to provide an output based on the output of information, it can lead to hallucinations. Now, hallucination is when the LLM gives the wrong answer. Some would say lie. The challenge with hallucinations is that it is provided with the same level of certitude as the right answer. But when you think about it, this is nothing new. It's like having that talented team member that's right 90% of the time, and it takes a seasoned PM to see when they're wrong or to ask a critical question when they know that the answer that is given is not quite right. Now, that leads to human in the loop. So you can see how human oversight ensures quality and accuracy. To effectively leverage LLMs, especially in the workplace, you really need a human in the loop who knows the right answer or at least can ask the right questions to ensure the response makes sense. Now, probabilistic. LLMs uses statistics to compute probabilities of what should come next, which is their predictive power. And this is why you should not expect the same prompt to result in the same outputs each time. All right, so let's set the scene and background for this fictional project. We've been tasked to develop an application called the Tennis Commentary application. This application will be integrated into tennis games played with those 3D glasses. We've been given the idea, the budget, and the deadline. We need to work with the firms to make the actual tennis application. Now, we are the project manager, and we're using the paid version ChatGPT 4.0. Now, I have not noticed a significant difference in quality using the free version of ChatGPT, but it is slower, and it may not be able to remember as large of a conversation as the paid version. And we'll see this as we get into the presentation. Now, as a project manager, we decided to use ChatGPT to help with idea formation, tedious calculations, and other tasks in every stage of the project. We've been asked to develop an application called the Tennis Commentary application. This application will be integrated into the tennis game playing with 3D glasses. So as the user plays, they not only hear that the ball was out from the computer umpire, they'll also hear commentary such as, "This is the second straight forehand hit long." Now, this technology currently exists in some forms in games like Madden NFL or Basketball 2K, but those commentary engines tend to pick phrases from a pre-developed list, and this type of commentary is not always appropriate, and it gets stale over time. So let's jump in. We're going to take a look at the following prompt. Now, as you read this, there's a few things I want you to notice. First, I provided ChatGPT with the context that I wanted the answer to be as if it was coming from a seasoned IT project manager. I provided it the big picture, then asked about something specific. I also gave it instructions on how I wanted the response. So overall, I'm acting with ChatGPT in a conversational tone, taking advantage of that natural language processing. And this is the tone that ChatGPT is designed to work with. So his answer is Agile, no surprise. ChatGPT also gave 3 reasons why Agile was suggested: flexibility, time constraints, budget management, everything that we're all familiar with it. ChatGPT also gave some reasons why those particular issues would be appropriate for this particular project. Now, I reviewed the ChatGPT's output and agreed with it. So as a project manager, we were good, selected Agile as the project methodology. But now I want to understand ChatGPT's understanding of Agile so we can communicate with the same vocabulary. You could have easily told ChatGPT how you approach an Agile project in your company, and that would be the common vocabulary to be used. Now, this also begins to touch on the value of having an LLM configured specifically for your organization. Configuring a private LLM is an opportunity where you specifically can lead your organization when it comes to generative AI. So this example, ChatGPT gave me their 9 stages of what it means when it talks about Agile methodology, and these are very, very common stages. Now I asked ChatGPT to provide the labor categories by stage. Now there are 9 stages, so there was 9 prompts and 9 long answers. So I abbreviated that portion of the conversation here. I will make available the entire conversation. It is 42 pages, but it's very quite interesting. So for brevity, I just asked ChatGPT to give me all the labor categories across all the stages. And after reviewing it, I thought everything was covered except one item: the project manager. Now, I used the term project manager throughout my entire conversation thus far in ChatGPT. So I was a little surprised that it was not named explicitly. And I have to admit, I had a flashback of an old Star Trek episode where the AI computer was asked to list everyone who should go down to the planet. The computer did not list Captain Kirk, who always goes down to the planet. The computer responded that the captain was not necessary for the mission of the success. I was hopeful that ChatGPT did not say the same thing. So indeed, I gave it a prompt. Act as a senior project manager of the 19 roles listed. Which role would take on the duties of a typical project manager, such as project plan creation, communication, personnel management? And it gave me the response that it was the Scrum Master. That's fine. I was good. Everything is right with the world. So now I want to begin breaking down the project schedule. We know we have a deadline of 1 year. Again, I did not want a long answer. I also understand that ChatGPT has all of the information that we fed it before. This version of ChatGPT can hold about 6,000 words, both prompts and responses, but this was about 6 months ago. Now the free version can hold about 25,000 words, and the paid version can hold even more. So you can think about a mid-sized book. I received very long responses, so some context was lost throughout this conversation, and this will come up. This question, as you can imagine, had some back and forth. I had to prompt it 3 times until I got an answer I was satisfied with by asking it to adjust the number of sprints. Just take a look. So the first answer, it just gave me something very generic that each stage would take X amount of days. But that's going to vary depending upon how many sprints. So I had to tell it to assume 10 sprints. Interestingly enough, with 10 sprint, it came back with 267 days. All project managers know that if we've given a year, we're going to take a year. So I really wanted a project schedule that would last a year. And on the third answer, it started to calculate on its own without having me to reprompt it to come up with a schedule that's going to actually last as close to 365 days as possible. So it went from 385 to 370 to 353, and finally determined that 364 was close enough. So that was very interesting to see it do. It does that calculation and that reasoning unto itself. Now let's talk about budget. So as you can expect, this took some back and forth. Again, we'll look at the prompt construction. I didn't include, for the sake of brevity here, but I did provide it the salaries for each labor category. I included a fringe rate. So this is another example of having a seasoned PM being part of the process, knowing to include all of these things as they interact with ChatGPT. I did ask for the detailed calculations. You can imagine I need to justify this to upper management. And it provided detailed calculations. Certainly you can see that in the output, in the long output that's not here. So let's kind of dig into it. The first one, it came with a project budget of $3.6 million, way above our budget. It looks like it lost that context of that we need to stay within the million. I asked it to reduce it. It still didn't get there. It tried to reduce it by reducing the salaries. Can't reduce the salaries. People make what they make, or we can't go on the market and get that. Then it eliminated roles to the point where the project would not be successful without them. So then I had to go and say, hey, just reduce utilization. And it still came up with a project of about $1.5 million, but very detailed calculations. This is a common thing that we're all familiar with in trying to come up with a budget. But instead of taking weeks, this took less than an hour to kind of come up with a detailed budget of what this project would take. So I decided to go with the $1.5 million and just to ask for more money. And so what I did with here is I gave ChatGPT the prompt, act as the project owner. I need an email that asks for the extra $500,000 the project will now cost, which is above the original $1 million allocated. I wanted to give them that context again. The email should be short and to the point because the audience are C-suite executives. It should summarize all of the changes we made to cut the budget. The email should stress that we did the best we could. Anything less than $1.5 million would put the project at risk. And here is what it came up with. First, it used an icebreaker. I hope this email finds you well. It's an icebreaker that I typically use. So I was very interested that it came up with that. And it hit all of the main points that I had in the prompt, put it in some specificity. Now, there's nothing spectacular about this email, but I know I've spent hours trying to craft the right email to send up the chain, and now I have something that I can work with within minutes. So that's really the productivity power of ChatGPT or any LLM. So now that the project is underway, let's see how ChatGPT can help manage the project. So here's a common project performance question. Act as a Scrum Manager. We're in month 3 and still in the project initiation and planning stage. I can't get these people to move to the next stage. What are some techniques that I can use to move the project along? No surprises in the answer, but it does give a list of good points to a PM who may not have faced this situation before. Also notice the informality being used with ChatGPT. The more you interact with these LLMs in a typical conversational tone, typically the answers tend to be a little better. So let's look at another project performance question. Act as a Scrum Master. We're in month 6. We're in the 6th sprint. We spent $750,000. Are we on track to finish in 6 months? Pretty easy for me to calculate in my brain. So I just wanted to see what ChatGPT would be. And the first response, monitor spending, continue to monitor the budget closely to ensure we remain within $2 million limit. It lost the context that we only had a 1.5 million budget. So again, this happens from time to time. It can only hold but so many words, especially with the long responses. I had to reprompt it saying that, hey, we only have a $1.5 million budget, redo the analysis. And it came back with the accurate analysis that, hey, we're halfway there, using half of the money. We're on good track. Now let's see the type of value ChatGPT can provide on a different type of problem, and maybe the most difficult, people. So my integration specialist has terrible people skills. He is the primary point of contact with the people of the tennis app firm. We need to integrate with them, so our relationship with them is critical. At this stage, I can't afford to lose the integration specialist. I need to have a face-to-face meeting with him. I need to provide coaching and counseling. I need to be clear about the problem, but not upset him. Please provide some talking points. The answer looks very familiar to any seasoned PM. ChatGPT not only gave 8 points, but also gave additional details per each point, and you'll see that in the long format of the conversation. Again, a great tool, especially for less seasoned PMs to use. As for us seasoned PMs too, sometimes we get stuck. A great productivity tool to kind of get us started. Now, let's see how ChatGPT does with something completely different. We have successfully delivered the project. Now it's time for celebration. I'm thinking about a local celebration during work hours. Many of our resources are remote, but we must find a way to include them in the celebration. Any ideas? And as you can see, it comes up with some pretty good ideas. You can imagine picking a few of these ideas and leveraging ChatGPT to develop a detailed plan and really plan the win party. Now, before we discuss the future, I want to share an unscientific poll that I conducted online. The question I asked is, how will AI impact your job as a project manager? So 6% said no impact, 9% said they feared AI will replace them, and 85% said that AI is a tool to be leveraged. So clearly, I believe that AI will and is having an impact in project management. We just reviewed several examples on how ChatGPT can be leveraged as a tool within project management. So how will this impact the field? Here's the good news. We all saw the importance of project managers, even with all the benefits of an LLM. We know that LLMs hallucinate. There needs to be seasoned PMs that know what the right answer looks like. So I don't think AI will replace project managers, but I do think the choice is going to be between project managers who know how to use AI and project managers who don't. Now, here are some opportunities. Prompt engineering. So throughout the presentation, we saw different aspects of prompt engineering. PMI has a whole course on prompt engineering, and there are several books. Look at becoming a leader in your organization on what prompts you and your colleagues should be using. Develop prompt templates and prompt libraries. Help your organization adapt generative AI. We already saw a few examples of how you can be a leader in your organization using LLMs. For example, we mentioned how LLMs could be configured to match the way your company does business. Um, Take the lead on addressing some concerns using LLMs, including privacy, which is a big thing, and intellectual property, a big area of gray currently. Who owns this information? Productivity. Now, there's no question that the industry expectation is that LLMs will allow companies to do more with less. Since you know it's coming, get ahead of it. Learn how to use LLMs to increase your productivity and then volunteer to take on more. Now, I know this suggestion is not the most popular, but I do believe it will happen. So you might as well figure out how to be proactive and get ahead of it. Quality. Now, I have seen some expectation that LLMs will increase quality. While this seems to make sense, it is hard to measure. So, if it is your plan to introduce LLMs into your company to improve quality, be sure you have a way to measure that quality increase. So, for example, being able to measure the ability of doing more sprints, being able to have less defects, being able to have less revisions of budgets. So those are some of those things that you want to be able to measure and show that you've really improved the quality by using LLMs. So I do hope this presentation was helpful.